Good morning, everyone. Today is Thursday, December 14th. The time is 10:10 a.m. And we call the Mount Vernon Industrial Development Agency board meeting to order. Can you please call the roll?
Absolutely, Mayor,
Here.
First Council. Here. Trustee.
Here.
And Commissioner.
Here.
And we have a quorum.
Okay, we can proceed with the agenda.
Yes, with your permission, Mayor, if we can skip the approval of minutes because we've had different board members who can out for different days, so we'll present the minutes. We can do presentations.
All right.
So the first presentation is going to be from Mr. Vernon, and so apparently Mr. Vernon is. There you go.
Thank you.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Good morning. I'm excited about the city of Mount Vernon and for Mount Vernon. Mayor Sean Patterson Howard has reintroduced stability and good governance to our great city. Sentinel on 3rd Street, on the mayor's Just City mandate, this development is predicated on 3 important principles: training, education, and sustainable whole green job creation. The Sentinel on 3rd, bar none, will generate a robust sales tax unmatched by any other business past or present to date. Equally more important, Sentinel has developed a comprehensive vocation and professional skill-based curriculum specifically for the Mount Vernon City School District. The Just City Corridor and the Sentinel on 3rd will be the mecca of living wages and not just minimum wages. Newly minted path career opportunities for our students and permanent job growth potential once completed and the trainees pass the course will have careers once it's done. Sentinel, we just know the way, people. We simply know the way. Now let's get started. I would like to introduce from Penrose, this is William Duvall, and from representing RPE, who will have the new business that we're bringing in from New Jersey, Daniel Simon. So I'm going to let William take over.
Great. Thank you, Terrence, and good morning, everyone. Thank you very much for having us here. I am turning to the first page, just the agenda, and I'll be giving a quick overview of the team, our roles in the project, an overview of the conceptual plan for the proposed development, including affordability mix, concept plans, preliminary budget figures, and our timeline for execution. And then following up on the action for the committee today, which is the request to enter into an option to a ground lease, covering a number of the parcels, which we'll go through in more detail and end on specific terms. On the first page, second page here, our firm overview. Penrose is a 50-year organization focused on developing affordable and mixed income properties.
The presentation is the next page.
So Penrose is a 50-year organization focused on the production of affordable and mixed income housing throughout the country, really. We stretch from New England all the way down to Georgia along the eastern coastline, and as far west as Colorado and Arizona throughout the Midwest. But that's while we are headquartered in Philadelphia, we are a hub and spoke model with different offices covering the regions that they know most about. So I focused in the New York office, which is staffed by a number of professionals who focus solely on the production of mixed income housing in New York State. And that's really where we bring our value. We have relationships and a great depth of experience working with all the agencies that are required to get large projects such as this built and developed in New York State, including New York State HCR and Empire State Development. In addition to the numerous counties and municipalities throughout the state, this is really what we do and we do best is build these relationships, work within the processes and procedures that are established, and succeed on developing these communities. And with that, we always bring in a local partner, someone based in the community that can kind of help shape the vision and concept for our plan to meet the needs of that specific community. That's why we brought along and met Terrence at Sentinel, who's really helped drive the vision and the concept of what we think is a really exciting idea that we're happy to further develop with the municipality in the months to come. Moving to the next page. And outline of the proposed real estate that is going to be the basis of this development. It is a U-shaped lot on third and third, or fourth, if you will, comprised really of three groupings of properties: a portion owned by the city outright, a portion owned by the IDA currently, and a number of private parcels, the ones highlighted in blue. The IDA are the ones they're the ones in kind of the blue boxes, and the city portions are the ones in the green boxes. It's our intention to combine this one development parcel and construct one property. We'll talk about the procedure for that combination, consolidation of properties, and our proposed structure for that as we get towards the end. Flipping to the next page is a very conceptual outline of what we're proposing, which we're calling Sentinel on Third, which is a mixed income, mixed use development, providing housing, but really much more than that. As you can see on the ground floor here, on the top hand side, along Third Street, we want to reactivate that retail corridor. Right. New, community-focused businesses right there to create a nice walkable retail corridor. In addition to the entrance to the residential facility above, which would be as currently contemplated 7 stories of apartments above, comprised of about 188 apartment units, and underneath a subgrade parking facility of about 100 parking spots. The real heart of the development is along 4th Avenue, which Terrence and Dan are going to talk about in much more detail as we get later into the presentation. But the heart of it is a workforce development center, providing training to those in this community and those who want to come here and live here, provide for jobs in the future. Jobs in sustainable construction methods, energy, and a number of other things that Dan's going to talk about as a representative of Royal Power, which is going to be the keystone tenant of the 10,000 square feet of light industrial space in the darker tan there at the bottom. This is our, as Terrence put it perfectly, job creation engine. We're expecting upwards of 75 full-time employees and real well-paying jobs created from this facility. And it's something we're really excited about as sort of a chain with people gathering training at the workforce center for jobs provided at Royal Power. And those can be people based in our facility, our building, who are going to live here, but also from the community as a whole. So we calling it a ladder, but I'll leave that description in more detail to Terrence. To keep on going through this presentation, next is just a very rough schematic conceptual massing of what this would look like. You can see the retail that I mentioned, those small retail facilities along 3rd Street, the residential entrance there as well, creating some traffic and foot traffic and visibility, people walking around on that area, and then the workforce and light manufacturing facility on 4th Avenue and the residential stacked above. This is something we are going to further develop. This is very schematic, but turning to the next page, you can kind of see a more representative vision of what this building will look like based on similar communities that we built with this architect. Let's get an idea of what we would envision as we come back to the city in the future for further approval, such as site plan approval, environmental review. If we approach the IDA about tax incentives, we'll have much more detail on the design, on the programming, and it's going to look something like this. This is our vision. Flipping now to the next page. I'm going to speak briefly on affordability, then we'll get into workforce and the budget for the property. Here are the AMI tiers for the proposed residential housing above the retail. It mixes from 30% of area median income up to 80%. That's households who make somewhere between $30,000 up to $120,000 a year annually, with kind of the vast majority of those upper 2 tiers, the 60 and 80% AMI, from $60,000 annually to $122,000, depending on your family size. Flipping to the next page, you can kind of see that in a little bit more detail. Depending on the household size, but also the number of income earners in that household, it really depends on where you would fit in that tier, in each one of these tiers, and what would be your place in this building. And you can see individuals on the lower end making $15 an hour would fit right into our 30% or 50% AMI tiers, depending on the number of household earners. Then those making much more, significant wages, earning north of $80,000 to $100,000 to $120,000 a year, would be at the upper end where I'd say the majority of the units are in this development. So we're calling it a workforce or mixed income approach. And we think it's going to create a lively community and something that we've accomplished in communities throughout the state and throughout the nation. Flipping to the next page. Talk a little bit more about the Workforce Center and Light Industrial Facility headed by Royal Power. I'm going to turn it over to Terrence Dan.
Once again, good morning. This is an amazing opportunity for the city of Mount Vernon, where 5,000 square feet of this facility will be dedicated to anyone who wants to change the trajectory of their current working staff. We will be able to train in all the areas of electrical, engineering, project management, installation, maintenance, and NOC, that's knock. But I'd like to be able to just let Dan speak to this particular portion, because not only will he be moving their operations from New Jersey into the city of Mount Vernon, which is huge. It's huge. This is what the state wants as well, to produce additional revenues for any municipality that could attract a large, successful company to relocate from another state into the city of Mount Vernon. But RPE will also be allocating funds for the training. And I feel the most important aspect of this is the Mount Vernon City School District will be the greatest beneficiary, because these students now will have true career paths. This is not make-believe. This is not a wish list. This is totally predicated on those individuals who aspire through the STEM program, who want a career in engineering, technical training, math, sciences. We'll be able to have a venue that supports them and supports the Mount Vernon High School. We will also be training in the high school as well. And then for the final true technical training where they get a certificate. Mind you, the only way that you'll be able to work on this equipment is if Central Vocational Apprentice Training provides a certificate of authenticity that you are able to work on this equipment. So therefore, we're going to attract people from all over the state and from other states, because this is a true path change. Well, this is a paradigm shift. Every building moving forward, already mandated by HCR, has to be all electric. This device that we are putting in is patented, and is the only one that's been approved in all of America by Con Ed, NYSERDA, and EPRI. This is groundbreaking. I introduce you the president of RPE, Daniel Simon.
Good morning, everyone. So very excited about this opportunity. We were awarded a contract from Con Edison to relieve 16 megawatts of power in the Jamaica network. As you all know, Jamaica network is growing unbelievable. The housing and everything is being developed, and they can't put more cable in the ground because there's no room. So the only way to do it is to reduce power consumption through clean energy, and that's exactly what our system does. The Con Edison system is facing a monumental task of a lot of the networks, including Mount Vernon, being overloaded, everything has to be all electric. And according to local law 97, which is the CO law, you have to be under a certain cap for CO, or you get taxed extra money. So we're very excited about this. We met with the Mount Vernon High School, right?
Yes.
And we spoke to them about a vocational training school, which we want to open up here and give students and children a real opportunity to learn hands-on and develop a real career in electric, not only installing and building our system, maintaining them. We are growing exponentially. We're getting calls from Rochester, from other states, Connecticut, Louisiana, and stuff like that, to put our system in. In fact, we're right now putting our system in the Prudential Center where the Devils play, and it's growing exponentially. And we're going to have a hard time keeping up with it. And that's why we want to open up this vocational training school to give people a real job and something solid. So we're willing to move up here with Sentinel and open up the school and also distribute the systems that are needed in New York City from here to New York City when they're being built and manufactured up here. That's a whole premise of what we want to do.
That's what will create a significant tax base. The city of Mount Vernon will start generating sales tax, unlike we've seen for anything else. Every project has to have this device in it moving forward, or you will not get the carbon reduction footprint that is required for you to meet local law 97 requirements. City of Mount Vernon will be the distribution hub and the assembly facility for this patented device. So everyone will, that's what the workforce housing, will have a place to house these individuals. At the same time, we will change the negative connotation on how people view the third and third just city MLK corridor.
And one other thing, Terrence didn't mention is that we want to build a control center up here. Yeah, we would monitor all the systems that are out in the field for any type of issues that happen. So that would be 24/7 around the clock. Because every system is monitored. So when a building has an issue, we know right away and we can identify the issue and let them know exactly what's going on. And that'd be 24/7.
I want to just conclude with that when he talks about that's called the knock. Those are special skill set trainings that we will be able to have. We will be providing the certificates. No one else will be able to provide those certificates. They have to go through our program, and that's what's going to attract this new, young, hungry class of individuals who want jobs. They want real jobs, not just minimum wage, but a living wage, and then you can even aspire. We have also set aside a special program for young ladies to want to come into this new growth path for project managers, construction managers, and engineers. So that we have made sure that we've allocated a certain amount of funding to make sure that these ladies feel that they're no longer being disenfranchised, but they are a very important integral part of our business growth strategies. Thank you.
My perspective as a developer working throughout the state, every building we're building right now is running into infrastructure concerns for the electric capacity that we're looking for. We are building all electric, including heating and hot water. It's a real demand on these systems. And we're hearing from every utility that it's just a significant problem. And this is a really innovative solution. And it's incredible to hear. I didn't know you're doing a credential center. That's
Yeah, we're in the
impressive.
process of it, yeah.
So I can attest it is the future. And working to the next slide here are just looking at like the different tiers of affordability project up to the workforce tiers, the 60 and 80 and below the affordable tiers. You can kind of see the jobs that we believe are going to be produced by this property and how it would tier up with someone in those tiers, whether it be someone working for the property on the janitorial staff, all the way up to people working for Royal Power or in the workforce center at those more living wage jobs, $75,000 to $90,000 per year. We really want to kind of connect the job we're creating to people who are going to be living there as well. Keep on going quickly. I want to mention the Penrose Foundation. This isn't really project specific, but it's the foundation that Penrose provides is every employee of Penrose contributes to this annually. It's a fund to provide funding to people who live in our developments, whether it be people going to school, we provide scholarships. We provide money for seniors to help with transportation or for events. Summer payment to help kids that go to summer school. Something we do across our portfolio that we will bring here. But in addition to that, we do something more specific to this community. What comes to mind is we're working with the village of Haverstraw right now, right up the river, that we recently contributed and donated a large number of computer equipment to the school board's computer facility and computer lab, and we'd be looking for other opportunities such as that. Just wanted to mention that, in addition to what Terrence can be doing for the community, we hope to bring the resources that Penrose has to make a benefit for the people who live here as well, outside of what the project can provide. Switching to the financials, this is a significant project that we're looking to execute on, but not something that Penrose is unfamiliar with. About $130 million worth of development costs, of which on the right, you can see the costs versus the sources. About $80 million in construction costs, $40 million in additional soft cost reserves, interest, and the acquisition costs in the green and blue above. The city and IDA's cost, the proposed acquisition number of 2.7 million, and the other 2.7 million would be our cost, proposed cost to pursue third parties, private sites. On the left, the sources, see senior debt, our typical mortgage, subsidy from New York State HCR will be working within their housing programs. That'd be subordinate debt, and an investment of equity from us as sponsor and our co-investors in the orange there, 52 million. The balance of it is made up of miscellaneous sources, but a really important source here, and part of the reason I'm here today with really conceptual diagrams as opposed to much more detailed, is the Westchester County Flex Funding Agreement. I think everybody's probably familiar with this resource that is going to be released. It is a critical part of this vision. We want to be ready when we're ready to submit for this application. Site control will be paramount to have a competitive application for these funds, which are paramount for making sure that this project is financially feasible. That's why we've come to you today to discuss, relatively early in the development, to talk about an option for site control by which we'd have some flexibility to go to HCR and say, we do have site control of this project. Please, will you allow us into your pipeline? That provides another check mark for the flex fund. See, HCR is on board. We have site control. We'll score much, much more highly. And be a much more competitive application for this fund, which is really targeted just for projects like this. So it's an incredible time to be doing work in Westchester and taking advantage of this resource. The next one is timeline. I mentioned this a couple of times, sort of the flow of how we'll progress this. First step is site control. Then we'll go to HCR and get in their pipeline with site control obtained. And after that, come back to the city and kind of go through the more formal review processes. We'll come back for site plan approval, zoning approvals, environmental approvals with much more details, and have more detailed conversations about changes the municipality would like us to make, adjustments. We can do that in the months to come next year. After that, once we've settled things and received our public approvals, we'll move into the much more formal process of receiving financing applications and awards, with the hope of closing on financing in the later part of 2025 and starting construction. So the next page. About to the end here. So turning to the request of the board today is an option to enter a ground lease in the future at construction closing, which is that late 2025 date. It covers the lots mentioned here. It is a ground lease, not site acquisition. So the city and IDA will maintain control of the land for a term of 99 years. There will be an upfront payment to the city or IDA as currently proposed of the amount of $2.7 million, or the appraised value, or the amount that the HCR will allow, which is typically up to the appraised value. That would be made at that 2025 date at construction closing, and after which we'll have nominal payments for each of the 99 years. So it's really an upfront sale of the property, but the city will maintain control via the ground lease in the long term and have some rights under that lease. We've provided a kind of a visual description of this on the next page. And then we're pretty much wrapped up to that. But so our proposition here is it's detailed in writing in the option to ground lease that was presented to the board for this meeting is the following, which is, it is our understanding that the lots 8 and 32 through 25, I think it's supposed to be 35. The portions of the lots currently owned by the city of Mount Vernon, we propose that those would, or understand that those would be disposed to the IDA. Additionally, Penrose and Sentinel will obtain or pursue and obtain acquisition of lots, private lots, the ones that were in blue there on that chart, numbers 1 through 4, will obtain control of those, and will also assign those properties to the IDA. So now we're on the blue box in the middle there, IDA, who already owns a number of the lots, 29 through 31. After these first two steps are completed, the IDA will own the entire assemblage of lots. And from there, they will provide a ground lease for those lots under the terms we just discussed to us as the developer for West to own the property. So with the IDA holding all of the lots and a long-term control of the property under the 99-year ground lease. That's pretty much the last slide. I just want to maybe stop there for any discussion or questions on the presentation as a whole or this part.
The presentation was very enlightening, informative. Excited with the training program for our young people. And also what could be in the future, which we do have to go to clean energy. So we're excited with that. It would be great if the city of Mount Vernon can be the epicenter for the, of throughout the state or throughout the community, especially. So that is great. So I am excited with that. I'm also excited with, which we're looking as the city as a whole going forward with ground leasing with most of our city-owned properties. In the past, we didn't used to do that, but now, with the new IDA board with Madam Mayor and stuff like that, that's definitely one on top of our list. What's going to be beneficial more for the community going long term. So I am excited with that, with the 99-year ground lease or the appraised value, which we will, of course, the city will look at to make sure that's the correct value of the 2.7 million that's prior. So assuming, values change, but that, with that, I'm very excited with. And like I said, with also the units, 188 units, I think it's feasible for that area. That's, not too much, but it's like right there. I think it's definitely feasible. So I am excited with that. And definitely, like I said, with the training and the job placement for our young people and also adults that want to transfer to a new job career, or stuff like that. I'm very excited with like that. So I think, like I said, I'm excited and we're just looking to, see what else we have to do to try to make the project move forward. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Commissioner.
Thank you, Mayor. My concern was just with the training for the students, which is good. And is there a projection on the percentage of Mount Vernon residents as opposed to just kids in Westchester?
No, this is targeted based for the program is going to originate from out of the where the Mount Vernon City School District has designated. Now, we've already met with the school district and they've asked us to take 2 of their STEM classes. So what we're going to do is create a sustainable pipeline. This is not going to be off and on. These young people will start knowing from the time they're 9th grade that math now makes a difference. Instead of taking all of these courses and you get it, I know tons of people have certificates on their wall and they can't even pay for their education, their schools. This will mitigate that and create, and the city of Mount Vernon, as Commissioner just said, we will be the epicenter for this growth, new growth potential. We have focused clearly on the Mount Vernon City School District, making sure that the district will play an integral role in making sure that there's strong percentage of their graduating students that will have first option. And of course, the mayor will play a vital role in that. But in the education, we want to always make sure that the school district makes the decisions on how they would like to see it implemented and rolled out.
Of course. Thank you.
So I guess I have to echo the sentiments of our Madam Assessor there. Oftentimes, we get a lot of criticism about irresponsible sorts of development, and people develop and then leave and are not really invested in the community. It sounds like there will be some significant investment in the community. You're not looking to build and leave. That area, having as a child grown up in that area and for many years, I won't tell everybody how old I am. I've just watched that area further and further deteriorate. And it wasn't always that way. And so a project that is looking to revitalize that area and one that is responsible and truly doing what they say they're going to do for the community would be impressive. I'm going to defer to the professionals in their respective categories as to whether what you're saying comports with what, yeah, sorry, we have more due diligence. So I'm gonna defer to the experts in their respective areas on those issues. But it certainly sounds like a promising opportunity for the city at this time in the right place.
Let me speak to your question. I've never, I worked for Con Edison for 40 years. I was the emergency manager and the 9/11 incident commander. When you're out in the real world, all right, I'm talking about plumbers and people that actually do the work. It's very hard to find people that really know exactly what you're doing. And we're having a hard time finding people that can install our systems because it's something new and upcoming. And I actually have to go out there and train them and show them on site exactly what we have to do. My vision is to have people ready, available to work, to do this, and it's gonna happen throughout the country, the way this is going. And it might not be our company, but it's gonna be other companies too, they're gonna start jumping on board, because we're not the only company in the world. They're gonna, I mean, once you come out with a good product, they're gonna start coming up with different variations of it. So it's when you start to realize the money that people make in plumbing and electrical, I mean, these are hardcore, hands-on. I'm not gonna come here and train people that are worth their weight in gold now after they're trained and leave. It makes no sense. I need people to do the work. That's what it comes down to. And if you're gonna train somebody and put the time into the people and let them learn and get a certification out of it, it's a home run. It's a home run. And they'll be able to go throughout the country to do this type of work. Not necessarily RPE work, but they'll know about power factor correction and what is involved in installing and maintaining and building the systems. That's the way I look at it.
And I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but even from a school district perspective, the schools have not seemed to be able to keep up with the type of trainings and things for people who are not going through a traditional academic path, right? And it seems like the schools did not have a lot of programming for the trades. And it sounds like private investment is where it's at, or that's the current trend to do something like that. And so the school district will benefit also from that perspective.
I went to college to become a mortician, all right? And I graduated as a mortician, and I realized that they don't like it. When you're in high school and you're going to college, you have really no idea of basis of what you want to do. I realized that I was a hands-on person. So I went into Con Edison and they paid for my training to get my engineering degree in electrical. And it's something that I really enjoy. Unless you introduce young students and children to this and say, this is what you can do. It's not for everyone. It might be 10 out of 100 or whatever it is, but at least if they give them a basis to look at it and realize that that's something that they would like to do, to me, that's a home run. The high schools don't offer that now. They teach the basic stuff and that's it.
Mr. Johnson, Mr. Daniel Simons, president of RPE, is being very modest. RPE is the only credentialed and approved by Con Ed, NYSERDA, and EPRI, and they are patented. Every other model that comes will have to only get permission to duplicate. So we have what we have in the city of Mount Vernon, 20 years of this new growth industry. No one will be able to come and take this.
Their sole source,
That's right.
period.
That's right.
Which is a lock on the gate.
That's right. That's right. And to your question,
That's what makes this
that's right. So it's hot.
sexy.
Thank you, ma'am. And more than so, where you're saying you want to check it. They're putting their money where their mouth is. They're moving their headquarters from New Jersey to the city of Mount Vernon. So no one's going to go through that level of expense and not have a robust interaction with the community, the people, and the great city of Mount
I
Vernon.
just had a question to him, which was very, I know you said you were going to build, I guess, like the main station here. I'm sorry, I think you said you were gonna build like the main station where we can,
Yeah,
what is the details with that?
so what a knock is that it's a monitoring center that would monitor every single system that's out in the public.
Is that like the Con Ed, like the transformer station or
Yeah,
something
something
similar?
similar to
Right.
that, yeah, so we know exactly what's going on.
Okay,
Yeah.
throughout every.
Right, throughout Con Edison, see, Con Edison and every utility is
Mhm.
under tremendous strain now because of electrification. Cars and everything like that, and all these systems aren't built for this.
Right,
You know, and they want electric heated and stuff, it's kind of crazy when you think about it, that they're pushing it so hard.
right.
But the only way to give more capacity to the system is to relieve the system. And you know, people aren't getting clean power. You don't get clean power, you get dirty power. So when you clean the power up, it lowers and you can put more on the system. And that's exactly what's gonna happen with these buildings. They're gonna have 99% clean power. And it's gonna give you a LEED certification somewhere down the road. You'll be the first town or municipality to have such a clean system that's running locally.
Thank you.
We hopefully have something for the mayor to be announced. We're gonna make sure it's, but the mayor will determine when to make the announcement. But there's going to be some exciting news that also comes with this, because Con Ed directly wants to participate with the city of Mount Vernon and the RPE new site that's coming on board.
You know, the average, just to give you an idea, because it's mind boggling. The average system, when we put it in, saves 16 metric tons of CO a year. All right, that's like driving a tractor trailer from here to California 14 times. 16 metric tons of CO. A lot of CO.
So, I just wanted to give the rest of the board members an opportunity to speak first before I spoke. I can tell you the last thing that I thought when I came into this position as mayor, that I would be about environmental justice, right? Being an urban leader of any sort, it was always about housing, education, crime, jobs. Coming here and understanding that, you know, wastewater, stormwater, clean air, tree canopies, and all of those things would play the role that it has in my time in leadership is mind-boggling. Right? But I just spent a week in Dubai at COP28, which is the climate conference for the world. My entire trip was not, and nothing was paid for by the city of Mount Vernon. It was all sponsored by Bloomberg Philanthropies. And we spent a very grueling week. It was a 2-week, but I had to get back here for budget and other things, but it was a very grueling week of learning. I am a climate mayor. I am now an Office of Economic and Community Organization of Economic and Community Development champion mayor. There's 60 of us in the world. It's OECD. I have just been appointed to the Department of State's Assembly of Local Leaders, which is 23 member board that will advise the federal government through the Department of State on subnational policy and international policy around climate change, public health, economic development, and foreign investment. And yesterday I got my last answer. I've now been appointed to the federal EPA board. All right.
Wow.
And I say that to say that that's not bragging on me. It's that I've come to understand the importance of the environment. Because on Sunday, when it was raining and most of you were going, well, this is a good time for Netflix and chill and a nap. I was terrified because I was wondering what neighborhoods in Mount Vernon were going to flood. And if we were going to have extreme weather and how long me and our team would be out there not being able to prevent floods from happening in people's houses and impacting their most important asset or valuable asset outside of their lives and, you know, human life. But their financial assets. So, you know, what I've had to learn about a lot in the past 3.5 years, almost 4 years now, is clean energy. What I do know is that our power grid is insufficient. What I do know is that we cannot continue to burn fossil fuels as that is causing our temperature and the climate change, which is impacting all of the extreme weather. In speaking to mayors in Houston, which is the fourth largest city in the country, and how their power grid failed, and how they're having 110-degree summers. And they don't have the electrical capacity to manage it. Knowing that Con Ed is in the process of temporarily lifting this gas moratorium, because there's no other way for them to manage the power balance, right? They put a gas moratorium in place. It was for clean air and things of that nature, but they're gonna lift it for a while. But based on everything that federal government and the EPA is saying, you know, that we are moving from fossil fuels to clean energy, but our grid can't sustain it. And that's why what you're talking about when it comes to knock is critical.
Yes.
Any housing that we build for going forward, and even all of our appliances are going to move from gas to electric by 2030. I'm a gas cooking girl. I like wrought iron pans. I've never cooked on an electric stove, but that is becoming the reality because it is connected to climate change and environmental justice. And so when you talk about this project, and we're not just talking about housing, and I don't like the word affordable housing because people see affordable housing as just straight welfare housing and 30%. And we're talking about workforce housing, right? And workforce housing is different. And that's why it's mixed income. And I'm always pushing to make sure that when we're building affordable or workforce housing, more specifically, that we are addressing the upper tiers of AMI. Because the jobs that are coming online, you need to push. You're never going to be able to build enough workforce or affordable housing. What we have to do is we have to skill our residents up to be able to pay for their housing, but you can't continue to give them, you know, only provide opportunities for minimum wages and expect them to be able to keep up with the cost of housing. And so, you know, this project is kind of looking at the upper tiers. They're more 60 and 80%. But you're also pushing the training, and especially in the green technology, the workforce that is emerging in this country and has the biggest potential for growth is green energy, is the green workforce and is the blue workforce. So those are the two critical things. And not only did I go to Dubai, but I also went to Barcelona, and that was the whole conversation. Again, was around workforce development. And I went to the US Water Alliance conference, and that was around green and blue careers. And those are the two largest workforces that will be growing in this country over the next 20 and 30 years. So that piece of training and that element in here is important. The light industrial element that you have for that 10,000 square foot facility here is important. The fact that this project also has retail, ground level retail, which enlivens the streetscape, but also brings in additional taxes and tax revenue is important. And so, and the fact that this property, I challenge places that are closer to train stations and TOD to go with higher AMIs, because that's our most kind of valuable, financially valuable land. This property right here in this neighborhood of which I live 1 block down and 1 block over, and have for most of my life, hasn't been touched in 30 years, in 30 years. And so this is a project that is not just building an apartment building, it's kind of redefining a community. And when I say redefining a community, it's not gentrifying a community, it's reinvesting in a community. And so that's why when you talk about the just city, you know, we talked about what is the right projects for the right neighborhoods, and how, you know, you don't build a workforce development project necessarily in Fleetwood, but you build a workforce development project in a neighborhood that is being divested in, and nothing's happened in this neighborhood in over 30 years. So, you know, definitely want to continue to hear more about it. The workforce development component with the school district is important because I met with the superintendent of schools and the president of the board yesterday. And we talked about the need for workforce development, the hard skills, but also the soft skills that need to be trained and incorporated into those programs. But I saw in your presentation, I know for your presentation, you kept saying over and over and over and over again, school district, school district, school district, but it's not limited to the school district. Because we have more than just our young people in school. It's the training of our students, and it's training of those who we might have missed, who are somewhere between 18 and 30, who aren't ready to be trained and follow the right path. But then it's also even for those above 30 who need to be reskilled, right, and upskilled so that they could be eligible, because the jobs are training and the jobs are shifting. And if we don't train, one of our biggest challenges in attracting companies into Mount Vernon is the training level of our residents. And if I come, will I find the workforce, right? And so that's what we have to do, is make sure that within our community, we have a workforce that is not ready to take on the jobs. And as we consider projects, we always say, well, we want you to hire local. Well, if you don't have people who are trained and who are prepared to be hired or have a work ethic to be hired, it's kind of hard to hold people to that. So, this has the mixed income housing, it has the retail, it has the job training center, it has light industrial. And I know somewhere within here, even though you didn't speak about that there is a cultural center. And so in order, we talk about live, work, play, and thrive. So that kind of speaks to some of that play and just the cultural uplift of the community. And so I'm interested in going forward and having these conversations. And as our assessor said, and that was the piece that we got from going through the Mayor's Institute for City Design and going through the Harvard and Bloomberg programs, is that the city has to stop doing one-off dumpings of our properties. We are 4 square miles. We don't have a lot of real estate that we have, and we can't continue to get out of tight moments in a budget season by just dumping city properties and getting the immediate benefit from that revenue, but then not kind of having any management control say so over those properties as they go forward. And that's when the IDA definitely said we wanted to look more at long-term ground leases, and this is what this is proposing. Thank you for the presentation.
Can I just dovetail off of what you said, because I find it extremely important. Coming and speaking to you and the board, to me, is very, very real, because we're doing a project in New York City. Down in South Bronx is the highest rate of asthma in the country, right? And we're doing a proof of concept in the fruit market with one of our systems, and trying to get through the bureaucracy of trying to put systems in the whole market is overwhelming. It's impossible. It's refreshing to come up here and speak to everyone that lives here, works here, and wants to improve the community. Because down in the city, it's impossible to do. And I give you accolades for that, 100%.
But like I said, kind of being hidden. I come from a human services and a public health background before becoming mayor. And what I do know about Mount Vernon is that we have one of the highest asthma rates in the state, right? Respiratory illnesses from asthma to COPD and other respiratory illnesses are very high here. We have a partnership, and we are one of the pilot sites because of our asthma rates, because of our high level of respiratory illness in this community, because we are a transportation hub. You have 3 Metro North stations that you don't see that in other places. You have, a major bus, Petrillo Plaza and bus hubs. And then we have within a mile of our radius about 7 different highway aerial places. And so we were one of the pilot cities to work with Davita Herzel, who happened to come up here around the sewage issue, but she runs ACLIMA, which is an environmental justice air quality program. And so between ACLIMA and that partnership with ACLIMA and the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation, DEC, Mount Vernon is one of the first 8 communities in the state of New York to have round the year air quality testing. And we found a lot of, the carbon emissions, and we have the high levels, right? That has nothing to do with how we run as a city government. It has to do with our location. It has to do with the arterial highways. It has to do with the bus lines. It has to do with the fact that we are a transportation hub. And so our levels of air quality are very similar to that of the South Bronx, period.
And it's affecting. the young
And
kids.
it's affecting not just the young kids, it's affecting our seniors, it's affecting everyone.
Everyone, yeah.
It's affecting everyone. So again, as we go forward, having projects that are clean are not just going to be required. They're going to be humanly necessary for the health of our community. And it's going to be it's a real major mind and operation change for us as a government and for developers and for businesses, because the other thing that I did is I went and stood in the pollution pods for the pollution levels that they have in India. And, and they had that. They created pods in Dubai for what the air quality is in India and the air quality is in certain, and urbanization is real. People are moving more to urban areas because in rural areas and things of that nature, you don't have the infrastructure for the shift. And so urban communities are going to become more dense. They're going to become more crowded. And if we do not build properly, we do not have any way to say that our communities are not going to become more dense. That's just a fact. It's been proven. It's going to happen. It may not be what people like. They want to kind of keep the charm of the old, but infrastructure is in urban communities. And so as it gets hotter, people are going to have to move. There's going to be not the great migration because of immigration. There's going to be the great migration in this country because of climate change and because of lack of infrastructure to address those things in rural areas. Urbanization is what's going to happen. And so cities have to be prepared. And I always talk about the air, land, and sea approach. And the air, land, and sea approach is we have to deal with the realities of today. We have to deal with the problems that came before us that we didn't create, but we also have to look at the reality of the future and plan for that in a way that is going to be strategic, intentional, and responsible so that we can have a community that is sustainable. So thank you for your presentation.
Thank you.
I know the ground lease is the conversation and having site control is the major thing that you kind of came here today because that is what you're going to need to go forward with HCR and with Westchester County. And so we will, continue to have that conversation. I know Brian has looked at documentation that has been proposed as well as Mr. Curdy. And
I think next steps we discussed was a meeting with the controller, the assessor, also the real estate chair.
real estate
because
chair.
Some of this is gonna have to come from.
Right, it's not
the
just
city.
IDA, it's a city end, so, I can kind of speak to as the IDA, but I don't sit on the real estate committee where you're needing to bundle city and IDA properties, which are separate entities, so.
Yeah, I think that's the next immediate step, and probably late December, early January, for that meeting, to have those discussions.
Okay, thank you for your
Thank you.
presentation.
Thank you very much for having us.
Thank
We
you.
appreciate the
Have
commentary.
a
and
wonderful
feedback.
holiday.
Thank you, everybody.
And I just need the tea, because I'm getting ready, I'm in here trying to breathe and not fall over everybody right now. They brought me this, but this is burning hot, I need a cup. Everyone has these.
Yes,
Oh,
yeah, it was actually, it's published on the agenda, if you go on the website, it's been for a couple of days. And it's put it up on the screen.
So as you're ready, just tell me, when you're ready to move to the next slide.
Yeah.
I have more of these, because I don't have.
You're gonna do like 2 minutes just overview, and then review.
They didn't be or anything. Here.
Sorry.
Y'all, come closer to the microphone. This is it. I mean, it reaches down there. You don't have to speak as loud.
Okay.
It's so funny when you don't feel well. First thing you do is run and go and take a COVID test. And you're like, well, I have COVID, so that means I'm good. I still have a cold. We still have a cold. Thank y'all for coming as members of the public. It's always nice to see people who are interested in what's going on. Who will come in person and not just bored people.
And what's here before the board is the presentation of cost benefit analysis.
Mhm.
There's no vote today.
No.
With regard to this matter. What will happen is Ms. Bradshaw and Governor Matt will make a presentation, 2 minutes, and then Victoria
Victoria, are you coming to the table next?
will make a presentation with regard to the cost benefit analysis. Just to remind everybody, the cost benefit analysis is a requirement of the ID statute. Victoria is going to make the and
And so I just want to make a statement before we do that, because, you know, I've had people contact me. We put out an RFP for companies to come and work with the IDA to do the cost benefit analysis. Ms. Stores is one of the companies that came and submitted the request for proposals, was vetted by the IDA, and IDA is with us a contract. And so Ms. Stores works for the Industrial Development Agency. The reason you hire someone to do the reason that IDA would hire someone to do a cost benefit analysis is because then we need that information. Data allows us to make decisions. We're not just making decisions on if we like people, don't like people. The data equals dollars, and that allows us to make the decisions that we have to make. So they're not hired by the developers. They have a contract with the city of Mount Vernon. They work on behalf of the city of Mount Vernon to advise us, who are not necessarily actuarial scientists, on how all of this shakes out. And that is her job and her role. Mr. Curdy, who serves as the attorney and who has a long history in municipal law and IDAs and how these things are done, also is contracted through to the IDA to advise the IDA on the viability, the laws, all of the things that go into us being able to make these decisions. Because, we get calls, and I'm just very direct. Who's paying these people? Who hired them? And do they work for the developers? Their job is to advise us on whether the numbers work, don't work. It is up to the IDA to make the decisions. They don't testify on behalf of, they don't advocate on behalf of, they present the information to us so that we can make the decision. Does that make sense?
Thank you, Mayor. That was
Thank you,
beautiful.
Mayor.
And I just need to say that because we have a way, and it's not unique to Mount Vernon. It happens all over the country. Municipal law, municipal government is the most granular level of government. It's where people get to express what they feel. But oftentimes when there's misinformation or disinformation, and there's histories that we all know about in our community. But what I won't do is just let people try and attack the integrity of the process and people who have worked for years to build up their credentials and to engage with us. We here in the city of Mount Vernon want to be able to contract with people who are our best in game, right? And that's what we're doing. They give us the information and we use that data to make the decisions no one makes the decisions other than those of us who are sitting here, but we need the data, the information to be able to make those decisions. So thank you, Ms. Store, and thank you, Mr. Curdy, for providing the information that we need to make our decisions. So with that being said,
So we're back again with our Q West Towers project. This is a 229 unit housing project for workforce housing. We've gone through the AMIs and the rents on this project, but just to remind everyone, this is a project that has 40% AMI up to 80% AMI. And we had adjusted our units so that there are more 80% AMI units available for this project. Currently, this is a two-building project in the downtown transit zone that we're in the process of working with the plans and the Department of Buildings, along with our financing, which is with HCR. We're working to have the project approved for IDA benefits. We were requesting both the pilot and sales tax benefits from the city of Mount Vernon. And we did provide information for analysis of the project. And currently we are looking to move the project along after the benefit, cost analysis benefit is presented to the IDA. Okay.
Thank you for that introduction, and Mayor, thank you for laying out for everyone what the role of the analysis that I do is. So sort of in the spirit of laying some groundwork, I want to tell everyone on board specifically, Stores Associates works under a written scope of work, task of work that we developed with you. And for an IDA, there's really two core analyses that I do. And depending on the project or the community, one or the other might be a little more important. But here, I think the first one is what I call the if not for. So you can have a terrific project. There's a lot of support for it, a lot of benefit to the community. Is it a good project? The test is, does the financial performance, the expected financial performance of the project merit financial assistance from the IDA? If not for financial assistance, would this project actually be built? So that's the first test I conduct. Can the project be built and serve the city as you wish without your assistance? And occasionally when I'm working with a client, I do see that it does not appear that the project is going to pass that test. And then I always call the client and sometimes we get more information. It's really, is this financial assistance necessary? And it used to be in New York State that an applicant was simply, and this throughout the state, the applicant was simply asked to check a box. And communities like Mount Vernon have learned over the time that's not enough. You need to see the data analysis. For this project, I tested the if not for, and I found, based on the data and the estimates and the analysis, that if not for your financial assistance, this project would not be built in the city of Mount Vernon. And I'll talk a little bit about why in a moment. The other test that I conduct is the benefit cost. And as Mr. Curdy said, the state does ask that a benefit cost analysis be conducted. They never tell you how to do it. But working with IDA for a number of years, I've developed here are your gross benefits, everything, and because of the project. And then here is the value of the financial assistance. And in your case, you've asked for marginal incremental costs to the school. So it's what is coming in because of the project, what is the city foregoing in order to provide needed financial assistance? And then I calculate a dollar ratio. And again, there is no set standard by the state. There's no guidance. But generally, what I want to see for all of the municipalities and IDAs that I'm working with is at least a positive ratio where you are break even to slightly better, so that for every dollar of financial assistance, you are getting at least $1 of benefits back in terms of real property taxes or sales taxes from direct activity or households. And this project has a slightly positive benefit cost ratio, meaning that the foregone revenue total, your benefits that you're awarding are outweighed by the benefits that you're getting. You're getting a little more than $1 to the city for every dollar that you may choose to use to support the project. And definitely want to see that. Again, that's something, if I don't see a positive, I always flag for the client. I didn't see that here. So a little bit about the process. Q West, as other applicants, fills out an Excel workbook providing estimated cash flows over time, the financial structure, details in this case of the HCR participation, where the other money is coming from, what does the debt look like, what are the jobs, the housing income, and they have not only filled all of that out, but made themselves available for questions that I wanted to ask on behalf of the IDA. And so the end result is that the benefit cost ratio is estimated at $1.07 of benefits to the city, compared for every $1 of financial assistance that you are being asked to provide. And over the 30-year pilot, that's a net fiscal benefit to the city and the school district of just over 1.1 million. And this is a summary on the first page of the published report. So then the question is this sufficient for the project owner to go forward? So there's the if not for, it doesn't go forward, by my estimate, without assistance from the IDA in the form of a pilot reducing the tax payments and some sales tax abatement on construction materials. When I'm looking at an entirely private project or an industrial project, I'll benchmark rates of return in the market for, say, a warehouse. Here, because of the New York State HCR participation, what the IDA also has is making up your own minds about, is this the right level of assistance? Is this going to be acceptable? Are we making sure that while we're providing assistance, we are not going over the top and giving them more than they need? You're looking to strike that balance. HCR also basically governs the amount of cash that the project owner can take out of the project. So there is something called a deferred developer fee. They earn over time, and HCR caps that. So they can't, you get into tax implications that I would defer to Mr. Purdy to explain. So the other test that I do here is, they're not looking for a market return of 14%, which you might see in other communities for market rate housing. What measure is here is the deferred developer fee being generated through cash flow so that they get repaid for their efforts. And in this case, look at page 3, which is IDA benefits to the project. By the estimates right now that we know and the cash flows that were submitted, I calculate that 98%, so almost all of the developer fee, will be earned within 15 years. So I flag it to clients if it looks like they're getting twice the developer. That's not the case here. It's fairly precise that they would, under these estimates, based on what we know, achieve the level that HCR wants them to achieve. And that is with the pilot assistance. So in table 1, there's the 30-year pilot at 10% shelter rent. They are earning that developer fee. They've got good debt service coverage for what they need to repay. The other column, no pilot, 30 years, shows very clearly that over the first 15 years of the project, they would only earn 60% of that developer fee, which is why I say, if not for the assistance, this project is probably not going to go forward. They can't earn enough. They could choose to build a project somewhere else. So that's where you see passing the if not for. We step back to page 2, summary of results. The big table is the estimated fiscal benefits and costs, and this is the benefit cost analysis. So I outline between sales tax from construction workers, on-site workers over time, household spending, taxable purchases for operating the building, and net increase in real estate taxes without a pilot. The fiscal benefits are about $16.65 million over 30 years. I outline the fiscal costs, which I really call the foregone revenue, because this isn't cash outlay by the city. This is not taking money away from the general fund. This is money that you are choosing not to receive so that you can support the project. Incremental cost to the school district, incremental cost to the city budget, the real property tax that you're foregoing with the pilot. The fiscal costs over 30 years on a present value basis are about 16.2 million. So that calculates a net benefit cash value on a present value basis estimated at 463,000. And that's a 1.03 to 1. So you're getting 3 cents more. This particular project is also funding community benefit projects, and they are paying back taxes from prior parcel owners that the city otherwise would not receive. So this, 850,000 increases the net benefit to just over 1.1 million present value cash over time, and improves the benefit cost ratio to 1.07 to 1. Those are just the fiscal benefits, the tax. Also on this page are summaries of the economic impact that I conduct on both the ongoing operations and household spending, and of course, the temporary construction period. Over time, because this is housing, it is not as job rich as you would see with industry. You're providing workforce for the industries, estimating 7 new direct jobs at the facility. Indirect are from purchases just in Mount Vernon. And then induced are, well, these people who are working for the other businesses, they're going to go to the grocery store, they're going to go to the bank, they're going to be spending money as well. So that estimates 18 new jobs supported by this project over the life of the project. And if you think about value added, the term that we see in the newspaper is GRP, gross regional product, gross domestic product at the national level. So on an annual basis, this project adds about $2.8 million to the economic activity of the city of Mount Vernon. During the construction period, the estimate and all of the jobs for the construction period are assumed to happen in 1 year. We know that that's not true. The calculations of spreading them. The plumber is here this week, not that week, not next week. Doesn't provide you meaningful detail. So for the entire construction period, based on the budget provided, the estimate is 535 direct jobs, the various sales, architects, engineers, additional indirect 109 jobs. And that economic contribution in total is $91.56 million during the construction. The last thing that I want to point out before I invite questions from the board, we're very interested in the impact on the public services and the incremental cost of residents when it's housing. And so for this particular project, my estimates, which are very conservative estimates, both relative to the cost of a new student or a new household, number that would be entirely new to Mount Vernon. So this, my baseline assumption is conservative in that I assume every unit is going to be occupied by someone who doesn't live here already. And having heard you talk about housing projects before, I know that there are a lot of residents who have need of better quality housing. So it's entirely possible, if not likely, that some of the units would be filled by existing residents. But this project on the public school, it's at least break even. There is a small gap of $76 in the first year that taxes from this project aren't covering the cost of the estimated new school students. And that for every year, there is at least a small excess revenue where the project is paying for itself and then maybe a bit more. It is a very similar picture for this project with the effects on the city budget, the city services. Where in the first few years, there is a gap. The cost of each new resident receiving services from the city is not fully paid for by the taxes from the project. And over a period of 30 years, that's $228,000 estimated over 30 years that I would call a gap where the project taxes are not covering these future estimates for residents and city services. And what I note in the report is that when I'm making these gap analyses, it's strictly pilot payments, the taxes that you would be receiving. What the city also received, and it isn't in here because I'm trying to be very, very blunt, is the additional sales taxes are not used to offset those gaps, although the city and to some extent the school district do receive them. And for this project, I note that the additional payments, not 850, forgive me, do offset those incremental costs from city services that aren't paid for by the direct taxes, are offset by the additional community benefits and the payment of the back taxes to the city. So I'm happy to answer more questions about what's in the analyses, but I do want to sum up that based on the information that I have, this passes the if not for test. It does need the assistance. The returned, the project owner will be just about exactly what they are allowed by New York State HCR. So your assistance would not be providing excess profit, and the benefit cost ratio is slightly positive over time.
Those we did before. Want to start with the assessment?
The cash flow and the Victoria fourth and the hard court, was that all included? In which your projection?
Commissioner, forgive me, could you ask the question again?
I said the cash flow. I know you said the cash flow. I'm saying the fourth and the hard court, is that all included in with their projection for the overall value of the project?
Yeah. All of the construction costs, all of the soft costs associated with construction are absolutely in the project budget. I don't have the details. So.
And you also stated that HCR tax deferred tax payment, is that a certain amount that they?
It's what they cap is the deferred component of the developer fee, which is the return to the developer. That's how they're making their money, making it worth the investment. And HCR does cap it based on the amount invested. There's a formula in on page 14, I discussed that. But the commission, don't know off the top of my head is whether the detailed sources and uses applicant provided included that money as a committee benefit and the payment of back taxes. Budget. Yep. Yeah, we can follow up.
I believe we've included it.
Well, what's the question?
What I'm going to double check for the commissioner board is in the detailed project budget for the community benefit costs, the community benefit costs, the payment of back taxes included as project costs. And I'm going to confirm one or the other.
I believe they were, if you can.
They were.
Yeah.
Thanks, Commissioner. That's it. You have it?
I'm gonna skip over because he needs an opportunity. Mr. Johnson,
No.
Controller Morton,
I have not read the cost benefit analysis. I can't.
So they can, well,
Yeah, it was
too, so.
board packet. What I will say to this controller, in terms of process from here, next step is public hearing and then it'll come back. So if you have any questions, you can always.
Yeah.
And which board packet? It's not the one for this meeting. That's just looking through the things. I don't have, this one, was it a previous meeting you had sent?
Yes, I didn't have it either, but I don't know,
I mean,
maybe it's in an email.
it was in what they printed out. My team printed out everything that was in the board packet, so that's how I got it.
All right, well, I'll have it.
It might be buried in someone of these.
Yeah.
We'll make narrowly, let's make it a consequence.
I'll have to look at it in detail, but nevertheless, I mean, for clarification on this, that there is a period of time in which there are services that are being provided by the city that are not being covered, is what you stated. So drill down on that for me, because you know that that's my sticking point. So I want to make sure that everybody knows this.
Yes.
Coming in here for IDA, right? I'm not playing this game. If it doesn't cover the services cost, then it's gonna be a no for me. So I want to make sure that everybody understands that coming in. So they're gonna have to figure out their financial model to make sure that that happens, right?
Mhm.
I'm struggling right now to make sure that we are providing the services that we need to provide and not having to spend money that we don't necessarily need to spend. So help me understand that statement, because that has perked me up.
So what this project does, the school district costs are covered except for $76 in year one. So Controller, your questions are most pertinent to the estimate of the city services with the assumption that all of the residents are new. And I think that's a good assumption, because if they're not all new, then your city services costs aren't rising because they're already here. But it's really best to start with what if all of these residents came in and needed something that we haven't been providing before. On an annual basis, there is about $16,000 to low $20,000 gap on an annual basis between the pilot payments based on the shelter rent for this project. So it's estimated pilot payments against estimated incremental costs per resident. And because for this analysis, one of the things that I think it's important to show is these are estimates, so they are far out, and we all understand that. So I take a present value using the 3%, which is fairly standard, even though inflation's sort of going like this. And I discount the value of the pilot payments, and I discount the services gap into today's dollars. And that is where on page 9, which you don't have in front of you, in the table, on a discounted basis over 30 years, I estimate a gap of $228,050 over 443 new residents.
Which comes out to $7,600 a year on
Approximately.
average. Yes. And this is all assuming that all of the residents in this are new.
Yep, and it also assumes that other things don't change. So costs of services, et cetera. And that's just necessary for the analysis.
Page 9.
Yep, it's page 9, where the header is impact on public services, city budget effects. And admittedly, we don't know all of what's going to happen. My analysis is to look at a point in time, make reasoned estimates, and then get back to you with what the estimates show. So
Okay.
over time, as the mayor said, approximately $7,000 a year. It varies year to year in my workbook. So that's over a period of 30 years, $228,050 is not estimated to be covered by the payments under the pilot. That's why I point out the additional benefits to the city that are beyond the benefits of the housing and the jobs, and that's the investment in community benefits, payment of the back taxes.
Which would have to be spread out across the life of the
No.
actual product, right?
No, we're doing a today present value of gap paired with the current value of the investments made right now. That brings it into today's dollars. What will offset the gap to some extent over time, but not entirely, because controller, I did look at this, is the sales tax estimates from ongoing operations. Give me that's.
Yeah, the projected sales tax of the ongoing, whatever the estimation is for the sales tax is coming in. It'd also be the same estimation of the sales taxes coming in if they were paying full rate taxes.
That is true.
Okay.
On an annual basis, under these estimates, I estimate sales taxes from the facility operations and the commercial tenants, $342 a year, because that's generated chiefly by workers visiting your shops, buying gas within the city and paying sales taxes on taxable items. That adds to when the households in Mount Vernon are spending a portion of their income within the city and they're buying groceries and they're visiting the shops and they're buying gas. Because the city is 4 square miles, they will be buying a number of their goods and services from outside the city of Mount Vernon. That's true everywhere. But the first year sales tax estimated to be retained by the city and the school district together is just over $6,000, and then that increases over time. So you do have, use the mayor's calculation of approximately $7,000 gap. You've got $6,034 coming in the sales taxes that aren't used in the gap here. And so it's whittling away at the gap. It is not using these conservative estimates, completely eliminating.
No, if I fully agree with how that assumption is made, but okay. I'll look at it a little further.
Thank you.
Okay. So the estimates of the number of children into this project.
For this
Based upon the makeup of the
unit,
AMI.
actually,
You think that is appropriate level? what we think this is gonna bring in?
This does not use AMI. This uses, to some extent, Westchester County guidelines, which more or less come from HUD, about the number of occupants of a unit. So I know the mix of 1-bedroom studios, 2 and 3 bedrooms.
Mhm.
And I conduct the estimates using this unit mix specific to each project that I look at for you. And the average new public school students per household, based on a study from no, not the Rutgers study. Unfortunately, the Rutgers study is now almost 20 years out of date. And demographic patterns, particularly in urban communities and high-rise apartments, have changed so dramatically. The
So what data are we using?
this is I have a footnote for digital. It's the National Association of Home Builders published a study by Najiao dated May 1, 2020, which makes it much more recent and much more in keeping with the number of children in a household. And what the Zhao study does is it also looks at the differences in the number of school children, not just per bedroom, but is it a small housing project with 50 apartments, or is it a high rise? And what this study found is that high rises, all other things being equal, attract children. And having raised a child, I know that I would never want to be on the 7th floor with a toddler who is bursting with energy. So this was research conducted by the National Association of Home Builders with a very large survey component. So they weren't just looking at demographic data, they were actually going out in the field and seeing how people are using these facilities. So they provide estimates for, in this case, high-rise housing, the number of public school students likely to come. And Mount Vernon has, unfortunately, as you know, declining public school enrollment and has for a number of years. This is common throughout the Hudson Valley in New York State.
So in our UTEP, I know in the new UTEP that we did, we put in there that if the project goes over the number of children estimated in the project, that they have to pay additional monies per child, per student to cover the costs of that gap, right? So, you know, so if these estimates are off, there is a penalty to be paid annually by the property owner. So if you say 35 and you have 50, then you're paying for an additional 15 kids.
Those are 35 new students. Those would be new students as opposed to some.
No, I understand. So I mean, if it's somebody moving from the Hilltop or 4th Street or from the Plaza, those are already students enrolled or kids in the school district. But, you know, if it's over, you do understand in our UTEP that we have adopted what a lot of the communities have. If your numbers are wrong, and we will analyze those annually, that there is a fee to be paid directly to the school district by the developer, correct?
Which is why it's important that the estimated number for a number of new children is accurate in the projection and the cost analysis. But it also, on the other side of it, going to, for the school district, is also know that then there also has to be this or this annual cooperation through their even certification process to identify if there is a person, a student who is there, who is new in that. So it's just important for everybody to understand that is some of it. And the reason why I asked is and again, I will say it again, I did not read this. So my questions may be off mark completely, or they may not be, but it's based upon what I, one, have learned through the process, and two, what I'm hearing also from some of the concerns from the public around this. So I want to make sure we are able to answer these questions and know how we're going to resolve it, right? As we come forward. But yes, that would be it. It was that part, school enrollment part is handled in the UTEP. For me, I still
It's
got
the
the
residents.
reference around this.
City.
Service.
Right, and so, you know, for me, and as the controller just stated, and the assessor quietly echoed over here, while HCR prevents there from being preference for the city that is providing the benefit, right? Because it's state money, and it's state money that should be able to benefit everyone. It really behooves the developer to work very closely with the city, with the churches, with the school districts, in making sure that this is very aggressively marketed. We have a lot of old housing stock, right? And we don't, and because the city has not historically built workforce housing. We've built affordable housing for seniors for the last 30 years. And there might only be one or two workforce projects, and then there have been 2 or 3 market rate projects. What happens is a project is announced, there's a groundbreaking, there are signs put up around the construction area. It says, put in your applications and start to apply. But because of kind of lack of sophistication or experience, historical experience with these projects,
Not doing that.
people don't, no, I'm not talking about what you do. The residents don't kind of gravitate to it. They wait until they see, you know, a 90% finished building and a ribbon cutting, and then they say, I want to apply. But by then, everyone else in the region who's kind of used to workforce and housing being built and how this process works, they've applied, right? Regardless of where the benefit is coming from on the state, when the city provides a benefit, I want to make sure that it is our current residents who are benefiting. And then that way we're not just bringing in more people who need, but we're meeting the needs of our residents first. And the only way that that can really, really be done is through a very aggressive, very strategic, very intentional, very coordinated partnership between the city, between the school district, and between the churches to make sure, and someone told me, you can't tell the truth. I was like, what does that mean? They said, no, you have to tell the truth over and over again. You know, we tend to put out an announcement, and that's the announcement, but you got to announce it every week. You got to aggressively market it until people realize, because there's so much noise clutter that we have to break through the noise clutter to say, while you may not see this project yet, it's coming. And the time to apply for, you know, it's kind of like telling people, you don't apply for jobs at Playland in June. You apply for the jobs in Playland in January. So if you don't apply for these housing units when it's built and you decide if it's pretty and you're able to take a tour of it, you apply for it when you see a picture and you see an application go out. You can't win it if you're not in it. And so with any project that seeks a city benefit, while we cannot do preference for city, we have to make sure that the marketing and the aggressive community outreach is done in a coordinated fashion so that we start seeing the percentage of residents in our community who are accessing this new housing, that there is a real benefit to our residents.
I hear you.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, Madam Mayor, I don't remember. With this, the 229 unit, is any mixed use on the bottom? I don't remember.
There's a small retail space you said of about 3,500, 3,600.
Yeah.
And so that's what they're saying is potential tax benefit of 6,000
Yep.
and change estimated commercial space. Is there any community space?
As in space.
As an open space?
Open space we have.
No, that's separate. It's not connected to this board necessarily.
No.
Okay.
But if you're asking, besides the commercial space, it's all the residential, there's small, we don't have very large lots that we're working with.
Right.
So there's,
Okay. All righty. Any other questions, comments from the board? Oh, so I skipped over you just to give you an
No, no,
opportunity to kind of
But my question
comport
was
some of your
kind of
questions.
answered by your comment with the UTEP, because I was looking at how the projections, if they're off, that could affect us, but when you do your calculations, I guess, in a building with this size, is the projection is how many new students would come from the outside based on historical models.
Yes,
And of course, it's a science, but it could be off, and that's where UTEP would cover the excess if there is.
yes, exactly.
That was my question, what the mayor can.
Mhm. Yes.
What's the enrollment in your school system now? Is it under enrolled?
Enrollment is around 7,000.
So you could use some.
Historically, the school district's population had been closer to 10,000. So it hasn't been at that level in a considerable amount of time.
Like Mount Vernon High School, don't programs over there.
Yeah, so for me, thing is that, you know, I understand how you came up with the number. How you came up with the number, I look at it. But I guess I'm really concerned is in the two-bedroom number. Because the two-bedroom number says that there's 8 potentially new students. Now, you answered some of my question by saying, okay, so this is this new student who has not been in the Mount Vernon school system. Right, because first brush of it is that you got 80 units with 8 students. That means you're projecting that you're gonna have a 2-family bedroom, that every family has 1 child that comes in. But then you answered and said, okay, but half of these 80 units might actually be people that moved from someplace else in Mount Vernon.
That's
right. And so, yeah, it helps my analysis,
Hold on, actually, I think she said, based on the projections, they projected that everybody living in this building would be new and would not current students nor current residents of Mount Vernon. So the analysis was.
so then, yeah. so then
You're
it's
saying
coming in
just
further.
the opposite.
Right,
You
so then
wanna-
No, but I'm saying, what the analysis was based on is you saying that for
Yeah.
taking the most conservative view, and to estimate the costs, that you determine that 100% of these people would be coming from the outside,
correct.
right? Because you don't have the guaranteed numbers. And so that's how you created your estimates on numbers and cost estimates.
Which is hence why I have a concern.
Right,
with the two-bedroom number. Because the two-bedroom number says to me that you are projecting that if these are all new, that you're gonna have basically a single parent or a two-family that each of those people in those 80 units got 1 child.
On average.
And that's like, I don't know if that's a little too low, right? You said to me, 1.5 children, I might be, oh, okay, that's a good possibility, right? Because there'll be some that will have none, and there'll be some that may have 2, right? You know, of course, there's gonna be that group that's gonna try to throw 3 children in 1 bedroom, but I mean, I'm not gonna go to that anomaly out here, right?
These
I'm gonna go.
bedroom units are not the size of Leviston Water Plaza.
That doesn't make a
Honey,
difference.
these-
Don't make a
these
difference, you know.
bedrooms, little
You know,
matchbox
they'll go and they'll make a bunk bed, full that takes just a corner. I get it, right? But that's the reason why my concern came up about this number. If this number had come back at, let's say 12, I would have been like, oh, okay. might be okay understanding. So you're talking about a 1.5 kind of number per unit. Some of them might have none, some of them might have two. I get it, but that's why.
Controller, I fully understand, and I will tell this board, when I look at this study and other studies, it is surprising to me, having grown up in a different era, how small family sizes are. And how many, particularly high-rise apartments, are not occupied by families at all. They can be working people, it can be two working people. And they are not bringing children into the apartment complex in the numbers they would have 20 years ago when the Rutgers study was done. So that's a change. I would very much like to see a far more detailed study done based on current demographics and family patterns, and also taking into account family patterns, very dense urban environments versus family patterns in suburbs where at least you have a small backyard. That hasn't been done. What I believe is that the numbers that I'm looking at, surprising as they have been, do track. I looked up demographic information about the city of Mount Vernon specifically, and the number of children, the number of children per household. And against that context, these numbers make more sense. And
Listen, I'm fine with where we are right now, with the understanding that I have placed on the record that I have that kind of concern.
Yep.
Right on it, and I think that this is something, to your point, that we all have to begin to look at to see what the true trend really is. It may be right, then it may be wrong. But what I'm glad about is that our UTEP handles that if it is wrong.
And that
Right.
handles it on the school side, the challenges, it doesn't necessarily handle it on the city side. So there are safeties and guideposts in place for the school side. What is not in place is kind of the city piece. You know, and it's interesting because looking at our young professionals, and my daughter's getting ready to be 32, when I look at her friends at 32 years old, 90% of them have no children, right? Whereas at 32, 75, 80% of my friends were married and had children and multiple children. So there are different trends and patterns, but then also some of that is socioeconomic. It may not be ethnic, but it is also socioeconomic. And so when you have higher levels of lower AMIs, they tend sometimes to have a little bit more children. It might sound backwards, but it's true, right? And I don't mean to sound funny, because there's gonna be some people that's gonna say, oh, Namara, you sounding really kind of, that sounds racist, or that sounds socioeconomic, but it's true, you know, lower income, you have more kids, those who have higher income.
Correctly, you want us to do a stronger marketing job
Absolutely.
for in Mount Vernon population, so that we attract more of Mount Vernon.
Yes.
Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah, I mean, if we're providing a
The
benefit,
reason I'm
I want to enrich the lives of my residents.
market.
I love other communities. They could take care of their residents. You know, we're not the tired, poor, huddled masses yearning to be free. I'm gonna say it straight on the record. Those who I want to attract to Mount Vernon are people who can pay their costs and who can cover their costs, and who want to build, you know, come in and take advantage of the market rate housing. We are one of the most densest, we are one of the most blackest and brownest communities, and we have one of the higher rates of poverty. And so that balance makes it very challenging for our cash flow and our ability to be able to provide services. So I absolutely, the social worker in me wants to make sure that those who need workforce housing, who are living in dilapidated housing, which there's a good amount of dilapidated housing and older housing in Mount Vernon, that we really love to be able to convert to this green housing that we've been talking about, or upgrade, but it's hard to do that when they're, you know, we want those people to really have the best ability to move into newer housing in Mount Vernon. We like newer housing in Mount Vernon because it's built with better fire codes, it's built with better safety codes, it's built greener. But to build that housing and have 90% of the people who move into it not be in our community is a losing case for us. To make our community denser and only denser with people who can't cover their way. And again, I'm a social worker and I'm a Black woman raised by a single Black mother, right? Without a college education. So call it what you want to, on different days, people want to call it what they want to call it, right? But at the end of the day, economically, we have to be able to take care of our residents, right? And that is what I want to make sure we do. And then economically, as a city, we have to grow our economy so that we can take advantage of some of the great opportunities. And we don't want to just be a community that survives. We want to be a community that thrives and prospers and can stop just struggling to make it tax payment to tax payment so that we can have the value adds that our residents deserve. And so, for me, we got to make sure we're covering our costs. And one of the ways that we can best do that, since these projections are based on everyone coming from the outside, it makes it a much better project when we're allowing migration within our city and welcoming some new, but allowing for more opportunities for migration and better opportunities for the residents who have hung through the hard times with us. And as we're reinvesting in our community, that they're the first ones to be able to really take advantage of the reinvestment and not miss out on the opportunity. And then we still have to find solutions for them as well as other people who are coming with a lot of high needs.
So basically we think that, and again, so we think that every and units is going to have one child.
I have a question. Why is there a projection for less in a 3-bedroom, less children than a 2-bedroom?
They're only three bedrooms.
Well, we don't have that many.
There's less
Yeah,
three-bedroom.
3 bedrooms. That's why I didn't go to the 3-bedroom.
Oh,
The
okay.
3-bedroom number
Okay,
was
okay.
so low
Okay.
that there was only
Gotcha,
three, there's
gotcha.
only three,
Yeah.
right? I think there's only
And
3
that-
units
Yeah, right, I
that
got
have
you.
3 bedrooms.
But that's why we did three.
That-
Right, it's the two bedroom units, the number of them that kind of just was like, okay.
8 out of.
Because
And-
basically,
And interestingly enough, because I look at my daughter, because I look at the 20 and 30-year-olds who work in city government, one of the things that I'd always said to people who were coming in to build housing, I said, y'all should make some 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom units, because those units are more likely to be occupied by 2 non-partner adults who are trying to find something that two non-partner, non-familial, young professionals or even seniors, right, nowadays, who are trying to sell their houses and move into apartments. But because they're non-familial, even though they might be friendly, they want their own bedroom and they want their own bathroom. So that's a separate conversation because this project is what it is. But those are some of the projects that I'm looking to come in because, my daughter moved all the way out to Brooklyn and that's what she has, right? And that's what I know a lot of young people as I speak to our staff, and Jahi, who is in his 20s, is sitting over here right now going, yeah, right? The 2-bedroom, 2 baths is where you're gonna really have your young professionals and your seniors who need to sell their homes or people who are downsizing. That's the stuff they need, but that's a different conversation. But all of it comes together because family trends are changing, just like we're looking at parking trends, younger people are doing more Uber and more ride shares than they are cars. So, those are all things that, like you said, finding those updated studies, but also making sure that we're looking at communities that mirror our community. And not, we have to find the communities that mirror our community and find out what the trends are in those communities, because higher income, less majority minority may not be the same reality here as it would be somewhere else. So all of those things, it's all a work in progress. But if there are no more questions, thank you.
Thank you. And Controller, your questions are always welcome. I know from experience that the outcome is better when my analysis is what doing that.
Mayor, if it's okay with you, I know the hour's late, we could just do the absolute must do's for the end of the year. Okay, that's not, sort of mentioned. It's like. That's very.
Hold on, and just a and that might be what you're asking right now. So the back taxes that were paid on these properties were already paid, right?
Yeah.
So they're not necessarily, I mean, they're calculated in the cost benefit analysis, but they're not necessarily part of this 30-year process. And the community benefit of 300 and something thousand, so, three 350 has already been paid, so
That's the problem, that would be sitting in a.
in an escrow, it's in an escrow, so it actually, once it's transferred over. Okay.
Research or whatever.
But the back taxes aren't sitting in the escrow, they've already been.
They were paid.
So that's technically not a part of the
Correct.
calculation, but the escrow of the community benefit is part of a calculation because it becomes live as part of this 30-year time period.
Yeah, I guess so, yeah.
Okay.
I mean, you got to go with it.
Just thoughtful questions, you know, this is all a learning process for us, because like I said, we're not actuarial scientists and and this is new.
The more that's in the record, Mayor, the better it is.
Yes, I want to put it on in the record for transparency, questions, yay, thank you. Thank you. Okay, so we're ready to go. You want to move to the table, sir, or are you just staying there?
Thank you, Mayor. Okay, if it's okay with the mayor and controller, I'm just gonna go through the things we have to do before the end of the year, if that's okay, in terms of matters that, you know, we're required to do under the Public Authorities Act. The first is, if we could hold a governance committee as part of this meeting, concurrent. All of the members are members of the governance committee. So what is before the governance committee is the review of the agency policies and bylaws. You may recall that we adopted these when this board came into existence in 2020. We have to review those agency policies and bylaws. We did review last year. Staff has done a review of the policies and bylaws for this year. We don't recommend any changes. So we asked the board to consider adopting those agency bylaws at a later point in the meeting when we get to the resolutions.
Okay.
With regard to the Audit and Finance Committee, every couple of years, we do re-RFP the audit services. Not a requirement, but it's just a good practice. We did do that in this case. We did receive quite a few, at least 5, my recollection, audit proposals. That's a lot more than we did in the past, and I think part of that is because of good work and healthy work that we've been doing here. I would say
Themselves on the back.
that's right.
And like hard.
That's right. What I would suggest is that we defer this item to the next meeting, because I would like to review the responses that we've been provided in executive session. Just need to make a determination as to which auditor to pick.
Okay.
So we'll defer this
Executive session now?
next year. I'm sorry. I think because of the time, just
Okay.
with it being, I'd like to give like a little bit more time to this item, and so we could do that in January.
Okay.
Okay. I don't know, Controller Moore, if you want to do the financial report at this time, or? Okay, we could
It's
defer
not a
to.
whole lot of change, we can defer it January.
Okay. The items for consideration are the following resolutions. The first is a resolution authorizing payment of invoices. This is the typical invoices that you time for health services, also for the services of our employee, Ms. Mack, and the payment for her insurance. If there's any questions from the board, I can answer them.
Have a motion.
The motion.
So,
Motion by the controller, is it a second? Commissioner, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Being none, resolution 2023-1 approved. The next resolution is the adoption of restated bylaws and the appointment of officers. And this is just a rollover from the appointment last year. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Motion?
So move.
Motion by the controller, is there a second? Second by the commissioner, all in favor, indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? There being none, the resolution is adopted. The next resolution is the resolution of adoption of restated policies. These are policies, again, that are rolling over to the next year coming up. If there's any questions, I'm happy to answer.
That we adopt or reinstated.
I'll take the motion from the commissioner and a second from the controller. All in favor, indicate by saying aye. Sorry. All in favor, indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposition? There being none, resolution is adopted. Resolution 12-2023-4, which is the appointment of the audit firm, we defer until the next meeting in January. The next item is renewal of the agreement for economic development consulting services. As the board heard earlier, the cost benefit analysis is the retention of those services is through the IDA. Just one point of clarification for all the board members. If you look at our applications, we do have an indemnification and hold harmless policy within there. To the extent the IDA incurs costs related to our analysis of the application, that's charged back to the applicants.
Yes.
And that's to make sure that, you know, we're held harmless and that you're not paying for things out of pocket. I just want to make that clear. So one other point, there is a slight increase in the consulting services she will be charging. However, again, those are paid, you know, reimbursed to us through the application process.
In that, you know, because it was very interesting today in the presentation when it was assumed that 100% of the people will be coming from outside the community, and that's how it's calculated. So going forward, I mean, just for me, I would like to see kind of a little comparison, 100% outside, 75% outside, 50% outside. Because that would kind of give us, you know, it
Yes.
would give us something to look at. I think it would be more transparent and provide options for the community also to see. Because I don't, while we haven't done well, I know that none of the projects that we bring on are even market rate. Honestly, even market rate at a high level are 100% outside. So affordable definitely, or workforce definitely won't be 100% outside, but it would be nice to see a comparison of 100%, 75%, 50%, just so it could help inform our decisions and the public's understanding of it.
And let's be honest, I mean, it's really worse than really actually what I originally in my mind actually until actually was brought to my attention. Reality is talking about 80 units. 8 students. Okay? Every 10 unit is a child, a new child. Even if you said to me that if you said to me that was in consideration that there was going to be 50% of them coming in, I'd be like, okay, I don't like the number either, but it still makes it's okay.
But
100% of people coming in. And tell me that that's kind of how the data set is. That's why I asked a question like, what data set are we talking about here? Because it just doesn't make sense. What I think is happening is that, fine, if that occurs on the back end of that, what they need to know, which is why I want to throw it out there so that there's no confusion. What they need to know is that we handled that part of it in the UTEP. But based upon their projection, chances are, if I'm a betting guy, and I'm really never a betting guy, but if I'm a betting guy, they're gonna be paying the school district more money in years to come because they're gonna have more kids, more children in that than what they have said that they were gonna have.
Well, I think that's what keeps the number honest, right? You know, in the
Well,
sense
yeah,
that,
but-
you know, whatever you put in the agreements.
again, if it's 100%, and that's why I said, I want to make sure the analysis are not just being done for the region, right? Because Mount Vernon is very unique to the region. And there have been news articles that have come out, I have followed them, saying that school enrollment all throughout our region, even though housing development is increasing, school enrollment is going down, right? And so.
Kids are expensive.
Right, kids are expensive. Kids are expensive, but I think what is important to note is you can't take and, oh my God, I'm getting ready to take a limb, jump out on a limb here. But when you look at Rockland, which is heavy Jewish, those kids, if they're being factored into this regional study, they're not going to the public schools anyway, they're going to cultural schools, religious schools, right? So if we're considering those communities, which are heavy, right? Like Monty is heavy, right? Monty and Mount Vernon are very different communities. And so that's why I want to make sure that as we are using studies, we're using studies from communities that are right. And I said, and I preface it by saying, oh my God, this is taking a limb, because to say something like that, people go, oh my goodness, that is culturally insensitive, but it's a fact. When you understand that Westchester has the 8th highest number of, Jewish communities in the country, and Rockland even more, right? They're not going to public school. They're going to their religious schools. When you look at the fact that there are an increasing number of charter schools in our area, they're not necessarily being counted also. So that's non-religious, that's non-cultural, so we want to make sure that we're looking at communities that are comparable to Mount Vernon, whether it's a 20-year-old study or it's a 3-year-old study, or it's a study that's in progress, right? So I want to make sure that, because we're making database decisions. And if the data is not comparable to our community, then we're making decisions based on data that is not relevant to potentially what our community is. And so I just wanted to point out very clearly for the record that our region is very different than many regions in the country. And our region is very much different than Mount Vernon. We are the blackest and brownest community in the state of New York. We are in the top 15 blackest communities in the country. And we have the highest poverty rate in the region. And based on the United Way Alice report, it also says that we have the highest Alice percentage, it's like 51% or something in the region. So our community, while we are part of this great golden apple, we are very different from the golden apple. And we're very different from Westchester, Rockland, and Orange. And if we're using Westchester, Rockland, Orange, Lower Hudson Valley numbers, as opposed to kind of comparing ourselves to the Bronx, or the Southwest Yonkers, then the comparisons are off. And so I just want to make sure that we are kind of, we're comparing apples to apples. That's all.
What I have to do is, I'll ask Victoria to watch this portion of the
Yes.
discussion, because
Oh, yeah, and we'll have that conversation.
Yeah.
And that's not on her. It's only, you can only cite what's been done,
Mhm.
right? We can only cite what's been done. And so when we talk about the data for the region, whether I was in human services or now I sit as the mayor, one of the concerns I've always had is that often the data is aggregated and it's not, disaggregated. It's based on the region. It's not based on the census tracts, right? And so we kind of need more census tract level data, because the census tract level data is more accurate than the regional data. And we just had a meeting even with the Feeding Westchester. So Feeding Westchester and the Westchester Children's Association and the United Way kind of have better disaggregated data in the region. They've taken the time out because of who they are to kind of drill down a little bit deeper into census tracts and kind of see where the needs and the hot spots and things like that are. And so I just wanted to put that on the record that we have to be, as we're citing studies and as we're citing regional data, that we have to make sure that we're just drilling down a little bit more. And if the developers have to pay a little bit more for that service, then they have to, right? Because we're not the standard typical community in this region, and we know that. So, you know, we just want to make sure that the data is at the level that we need it, so that we can make the best decisions based on what the reality of our community. So yes, the time is long spent.
Yes.
So anything else?
Just two quick things. One is just the approval of minutes. And then also just talking about just a couple of things to keep in mind for the next meeting. The first is with the approval of minutes, we have 4 sets. We have October 31st, the 9th of November, the 30th of November, and then also our public hearing. Just to be clear with regard to the public hearing minutes, you know, typically the public hearing comments are provided the same day, but the agency did extend the public hearing comment period. There were some comments that came after the fact up until the time that the comment period closed. With regard to any comments that came after that period closed, any correspondence that we received is shared with the board. So to the extent, you know, you want to utilize those documents and ask questions from them at a further proceeding, you're always welcome to do that. Also, whatever we do receive, even if it's after the fact, we do share with the developer. It's not part of the public hearing record because it was received after the fact, and it's unfair. I know somebody who's here today was at the public hearing. It's unfair to, you know, lump them in with people who took the time to provide those comments within that period. But we did ask the developer to provide comments. The next time they're back on, they'll be providing responses to the board. And again, you know, whether it's matters that came up during the public hearing, and then to the extent that they want to address something even that came after the fact, we do that. So I just wanted everybody aware of that. And if, unless you have any questions, if you would consider doing a motion to adopt those minutes.
Motion to adopt.
I make a motion to, can we do and take them all in one lump?
Yes, we may.
Make a motion to adopt the minutes from October 31st of 2023, November 9th of 2023, November 30th of 2023, and the November 30th, 2023 public hearing.
Second. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? There being none, the minutes are adopted. New business, just very quickly, this is the time of year we talk about our 2024 goals coming up. With regard to our 2023 goals, most of them have been related to getting the agency back on solid financial footing. We are up to date with all of our audits. We'll be about up to date with all of our para supporting. I think for the upcoming year, consider some of the projects you've heard over the past couple of months. I think those will be our primary goals going forward. And then just an acknowledgement of your fiduciary duty statement. You have to do this each year as board members, also a confidential board evaluation, what improvements can be made with regard to the board process, and also the meeting calendar for next year, which is every second Thursday of the month. And that's it. That's all for new business.
Can I ask Julie to help me clean up what we did with the things that I have to sign, because
Yes.
I signed from last meeting with the expectation we would have adopted those items.
Absolutely. Thank you. I have nothing further to prove today.
Make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Second.
Favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
The opposition, there being none, meeting is adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.
24.
Okay.